So let's look at plagiarism in a bit more detail. First of all, what is plagiarism? This is the definition that I've taken from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Plagiarism is to steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own. It's also using another's production without crediting the source to commit literary theft. It's also presenting as new and original an idea or product that's derived from an existing source. So that's a fairly broad definition of what plagiarism is. Plagiarism is often considered a form of intellectual theft within the academic environment, and that's regardless of whether or not the student had any intention to do it. So if you look at this from a legal perspective, any new ideas that you create that are genuinely your ideas, that's part of your intellectual property, and that would normally be covered as part of the copyright laws in that particular country. And that's the same for any piece of work, be it if you're creating a piece of music or if you're creating some kind of video. We also come across this term internet plagiarism, and of course in an academic environment everyone now is connected together. Everyone is using computers and the web to actually engage in the learning process, and it's just become part and parcel of the learning environment. And a consequence of that is everyone now has access to an incredible amount of information at their fingertips. At the same time, everything has become electronic, and it's incredibly easy to cut and paste stuff from the internet. So students not only have a wealth of information, they also are able to utilize that information electronically, and that's given rise to a phenomenon known as internet plagiarism. So doing stuff electronically, of course, we know that it's very easy to cut and paste. That's very different from the olden days where things were handwritten. But what the internet has done has actually highlighted the importance of academic integrity. Academic integrity is not a concept that didn't exist before the internet. It actually was there all along, but it's become a much more pressing issue because of the internet. It's also highlighted the importance of information literacy skills because electronic resources have become an integral part of how people learn and how people develop. These information literacy skills are becoming much more important these days, and it's important both for educators as well as students to understand these skills. There are different forms of plagiarism, and I'd like to draw your attention to something that I found on the plagiarism.org site. It describes in a nice way the different forms of plagiarism. There are 10 different forms. First of all, there's the cloning, where students submits work word for word and pretends that it's their own. Control C is, if you know, Control C is the cut, the keyboard shortcut for cutting stuff. So this is where students just cut stuff and paste that inside their assignment. Number 3 is find and replace. So where a student has taken a bit of text and they've changed the words around, but the essence of what they copied is the same. That's find and replace. Remixing is where they're pulling together information from multiple sources and just remixing and rehashing that. Recycling is like self-plagiarism. They're recycling work that they've done previously as new work. There's also number 6, which is hybrid, and this is where students have combined good referencing with non-referencing. So it kind of gives the impression that they've cited properly, but their work actually contains lots of places where they haven't referenced. A mashup is simply material that's been copied from everywhere and it's just being combined together, a bit like the remixing. Number 8 is the 404 error. That's where if you go to a website and the web address doesn't exist, you'll get a 404 error. And this is where they've given citations, but that citation is either inaccurate or it doesn't exist in the first place. The other form of plagiarism is aggregator, where a student, this is another version of assemblage. This is where a student has aggregated information from other sources and there's little there in terms of individual contribution. And finally, there's retweeting. So if you're a user of Twitter and you retweet somebody else's tweet, you're just kind of saying what they've said already, and you're not changing the form or structure. You're just retweeting what they said. So that's the final form of plagiarism. So that's just an interesting way of looking at plagiarism and the different kinds of plagiarism that exist.